Hi, everyone. Welcome to Open Infra Live. My name is Kristen Barrientos from the Open Infra Foundation, and I'm super excited to be one of your hosts today. Open Infra Live is a virtual series hosted by the Open Infra Foundation, showcasing production case studies, open source demos, industry conversations, and the latest updates from the global open infrastructure community. We are live on Thursdays at 15 UTC, streaming on YouTube, LinkedIn, and Facebook. First, I would like to thank the Open Infra Foundation Platinum, Gold, and Silver members for supporting the Open Infra mission and making this show possible. As I mentioned, we're streaming live and we will be answering questions throughout the show. So feel free to drop the questions into the comment section and we will answer as many as we can. Now I will hand it off to my co-host, Tariq Perez from the Open Infra Foundation to provide more details about today's episode.
Thanks, Christine. Some of the most popular episodes on Open Infra Live are the large-scale OpenStack show, where operators of large-scale OpenStack deployments come and discuss operational challenges and solutions. Today, the large-scale OpenStack show is back for an ops deep dive into Ubisoft OpenStack deployment. Co-hosting with us for today's discussion, we have Arnaud Morin from OVH Cloud and Felix Hüttner from Schwarz Group. They are joined by our guests from Ubisoft, Benjamin Fuhrmann and Stanislav Dmitriev. Hi everyone. To kick this off, could you, Benjamin and Stanislav, could you tell us a bit about yourselves and what brought you to this unique job that is providing infrastructure?
Hi everyone. So I'm Benjamin, and I've been in Ubisoft since 2019, so more than 3 years. And how I joined the OpenStack environment, I've started in 2014, 2015. In another job when we wanted to have a new infra, and I'm a developer normally, and back in time they say to me, okay, we want to have infra as code, you're a developer so you can do an infra. Okay. But I know nothing about infra, and I discover everything, and there's been I have 6 or 7 years of experience around OpenStack now.
What about you, Stanislav?
Well, I've been around OpenStack, I would say, for like 8-9 years. I don't remember exactly. So it started long ago, and I changed several companies I was working for, and I moved into different countries a couple of times along with this OpenStack stuff. Yeah, but I joined Ubisoft quite recently, just say 2.5 years ago, and that's it.
Perfect. So let's talk a bit about your OpenStack usage at Ubisoft. Like, how are you offering OpenStack to your users? What type of usage you have in the company? Could you give us a bit more details on your inside configuration?
Yeah, we definitely could. So basically, we use OpenStack as a private cloud offers. So our customers, they could use API, they could use web dashboards, like general web dashboards. A lot of them use automation like Terraform, Pulumi, stuff like that. Plus we have it's a bit side project. It's not management by our team, it's managed by another team, but it's like a platform as a service, so managed Kubernetes clusters. So those heavily rely on our infrastructure. And,
do you have a lot of teams working with OpenStack? Is it a whole company, or is it located to, I don't know, some part of the IT, or?
Yeah, it can be the whole company actually. That's we have some department ITs using OpenStack for their own project, like logging, monitoring, stuff like that. And there are sort of different production Ubisoft that use the cloud directly, with OpenStack APIs to perform stuff, or it can also be indirectly other APIs, like we have Kubernetes stuff with launchers on top of OpenStack or public cloud. They have different choices depending on their needs. So that's the different numbers of of possibilities, and the development use case in Ubisoft is very large actually. Even us, we are not aware of all the use case. We just manage infrastructures, and they can do whatever kind of stuff they want on top of that.
So that basically means you're the default, let's say, infrastructure provider for Ubisoft? Or is
Yes.
there like things around it? Okay.
We're like internal service infrastructure provider. We're trying to compete with public offers. Of course, it's not so easy to do, but we have our pros and cons.
I know that pain.
So that's actually very interesting. What is the differentiation? Like you said, your various internal customers can opt into the local private infrastructure, but they could also go outside to any hyperscaler or other offering. What are the pros and the cons of using the internal infrastructure that you are responsible for?
Well, I believe the main pros would be the price. So we're just cheaper than the public offering. We're cheaper comparing to AWS or Google Cloud, and I believe there might be some security concerns because some projects still are not okay with using public clouds, for like high sensitive data. It's a lot of things. Still believe it's better to store everything they run their load inside the company and the servers that belong to the companies they are working for.
And I believe for the cons, I guess, is mostly the feature we propose. We can't compete with all the features proposed by AWS or GKE. That's kind of impossible, actually. And but we propose the basic stuff, the compute, the network, the load balancers, and volumes. The basic stuff.
We cannot compete with AWS in the terms of functional. We don't have such resources, and I mean that's obvious, right? Yeah, but we don't have this target. We don't have this goal. As Benjamin highlighted, we're trying to provide, we're trying to cover the most basic cases, like a general infrastructure. That's and I believe it's one of the most useful cases.
Is there any use case that is very missing in your current OpenStack deployment, or even in OpenStack itself, that you would like to have and that your customer are willing to have, or that they can find in other public cloud provider, but not in your infra?
Functions as a service.
Function, okay. They are looking for that. Okay.
Yeah, at least that's a third thing that comes to mind, because quite often we have this kind of questions, and unfortunately we cannot offer anything reliable.
Okay.
In terms of usage, is it used for everything, like CI/CD development, building, or is it used mostly for running game backends? What is the type of usage, if you even know, that the infrastructure is being used for?
Actually, it can be both. I know that CI/CD for main stuff are used inside cloud, for example, the GitLab stuff and so on. But there is actually we have, I don't know, hundreds and hundreds of different projects from production all around the world. So we don't know exactly all the details. I know that there's sometimes it's not the whole part of the game or the game servers can be hosted directly on our infrastructure, but some part of it, depending how they conceive the production and how they conceive the infrastructure. And also note that depending on the production, they don't have always the same process, the same architecture, the same way to perform the stuff. So it's really dependent on how the different internal customers of Ubisoft is using the stuff.
But if you want some examples, like Benjamin said, yes, there are definitely CI/CDs, there are definitely build processes, and some game backends are running as well. And have a lot of Kubernetes deployment, and of course we have no idea what's been running on those Kubernetes clusters. For us, it's just general instances. So yeah, as Benjamin said, usually we don't even know. We just we're infrastructure provider.
Also, an interesting use case we can mention, we have some GPUs inside our infrastructure on compute, and they are used to, for instance, virtual workstation, or it can be for building games or stuff like that. We have also set on our side.
Does it mean your infrastructure is generic and can be used for almost everything in your company, or do you have some OpenStack regions somewhere which are mostly designed for CI/CD and some other designed for I don't know, game backends or other stuff?
No, it's absolutely generic.
Okay.
Some regions might have more special kind of flavors. For example, more GPUs flavors. Some may have less, but at the large scale, it's generic.
Okay, nice.
How many regions do you then have? Sounds like more than one.
15.
Yeah, 15.
Okay.
We're gonna decommission 3 of them until the end of the year. But it's gonna be 12.
Is it because you are moving them to moving your customer to another region, or you have less conception, or?
Well, the thing with those old regions, they've been using the old architecture and let's say mostly network architecture. So it's mostly important, mostly impossible to bring them to the state that we want and that we use for new regions. So it's been decided to.
So your upgrade strategy is to destroy and recreate, basically, for at least for these regions.
For these regions, yes, but we are trying to, and I believe we successfully trying to adopt another strategy with proper life cycle, with upgrades, and keeping our regions alive for quite a long time instead of deploying new ones.
Okay.
Can you tell us in aggregate the volume or the size of your OpenStack deployment, like beyond the number of regions, the number of CPUs or the number of servers that you have? Is it something you can communicate?
Yeah, I think so. About the number of CPU, I don't have the details for all regions, but globally we have around 200K cores available for partners, and I don't recall the last number, but I think it was around 12 or 30K VMs spawned at the same time. So that's something we are kind of specific to now on infra. We have a lot of very big VMs. People also don't use very small ones. It's kind of they could use, but the majority of the VMs has around 8 or 16 CPU cores. And yeah, that's what else about
for example, the build VMs, they could easily take like 32 virtual cores, and so we really have a lot of big instances.
So yeah, mostly you deploy big instances.
It depends. It's actually I would say the most common, most often used flavor is medium, and a bit higher than medium.
Okay.
So something like 8, 16 cores. They are in the highest demand.
Do you know from your users how they use these or how they manage these VMs? If they update them, or if they rather say let's throw them away if I need to update, rebuild a new one?
It absolutely depends on the team.
Okay.
So and we have really many different teams with different approaches. Some of them use classic life cycles, so they're trying to maintain those instances like in this pet and cattle paradigm. They try to treat them as pets, but most of the team trying to adopt this cattle approach and just destroy spawn new ones instead of updating all the stuff.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions on the usage, Arno or Felix?
No, I was going to introduce the why OpenStack question.
What else?
Yeah. Have you started with something else before, or do you know if Ubisoft used other cloud operating system before, or even in parallel, or is it only OpenStack because of OpenStack?
Yeah, we also have in parallel some VMware stuff for other use case, like some from Homesting too, but it's way less used compared to OpenStack. And we also have some for local studios. They have some VMware stuff too for the usage. But it's more for local stuff. We propose like for data centers on our side is not the same usage compared to local one. And but for the OpenStack one, actually, that's very because I wasn't aware of the whole history of OpenStack Ubisoft, and I heard very recently
It started long ago.
Yeah, we started in 2010 actually.
Yeah, so we weren't there at all. And the people who started this story, they almost are like they do not work with us anymore.
Okay.
Almost all of them. So it's quite vague how it started, but Ben just told me the release, it was like Diablo was the first release deployed. So
and actually back in time when I tested that, I wanted to see what is the status of the cloud. It was for more an R&D process to see, okay, what's the status, and I tried to put that for a kind of alpha production. It was based on Workstation, not real server actually back in time. And I've done that for several years, with Diablos and Grizzly. But when I entered Ubisoft 3 years ago, the old architecture that was now decommissioned was in Liberty, something like that, and it was starting I think in 2015, something like that. So that's the moment where they start to be more in production and say, okay, we want to have more servers to also more and more things on the cloud, because that's the way people want to deploy stuff now. They don't want to have bare metal and so on. And that's the way they start to have more production-ready cloud compared to the beginning 2010. Because even OpenStack in this period wasn't that stable. Like, can I say?
Yeah.
So that's a very, very long story.
So which version did you start deploying massively? Because like you mentioned 200,000 CPU cores, it's a pretty large deployment. Which version did you start really ramping up? Was it very gradual, or was there like a moment where you said, well, now this is the thing we'll deploy everywhere. Let's go with this version, and that was the start of it.
If I'm not wrong, it was starting around Kilo when then they redeploy in Liberty or something like that. When they start to have around 200, 300, 400 hypervisors in two main regions, and then that's the first main one. The one I'm aware of is there's some older stuff I'm not aware, and I'm not aware of the scale of them. I don't have all the details. And for the and the next they move to another generation, and where we have some region with the biggest, well, used to be the biggest region with 400 hypervisors, and that was in 2017, something like that. It was classic.
It was Queens, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it was Newton and Queens, depending on the region.
Those actually are three those regions that I mentioned we would like to decommission until the end of the years.
Queens based, right?
One Queens and two Newton based.
Yeah. Okay. And what is the latest OpenStack version you're deploying right now?
In production, it's Train.
Yeah. Train.
So most of our regions were deployed initially in Stein after like latest new regions, but recently, a couple of months ago, we finished full upgrade from Stein to Train, and we're planning to go further, and we actually have a quite ambitious goal to get to Z up to the end of this calendar year, maybe
Okay.
beginning of the next. But yeah, we definitely want to get as close to get as close to master as we can.
So it means you are currently managing Newton, but also Stein and Train.
No,
And
there is
Queens?
no Stein anymore. All Steins
No,
were
Stein.
upgraded to Train.
Upgraded.
Mm.
Okay.
Mm.
Three. You still have 3 OpenStack different version in production right now.
Yeah.
Yes.
And soon we could have a new region in recent bits for more multi-easy approach because of how our regions currently are single easy, and we want to have multi-easy regions. But for this one, this will be in Wallaby.
Okay.
And but the idea is for other region not already in Wallaby, because we wanted Wallaby for specific feature in multi-easy. I don't know how them in mind, but the idea is for all other regions to catch up with Wallaby version.
At least,
yeah.
yeah. So idea is to get rid of the old deployments and at the first stage align everything at the Wallaby level and then go beyond.
So it sounds like an interesting plan. We have shared components between these regions that you also need to upgrade.
Keystone is shared across all the regions.
Yeah.
Okay.
And Keystone is not in Train.
Yeah, Keystone is not in Train. Actually, Keystone that's only servers that use in Rocky.
So it's another version.
I can tell you that this upgrade path is quite easy. So we did that like a few months ago, and it worked extremely well.
Well, we will get there eventually. I'm pretty sure, and yeah, we have it in our plans.
So you've been on this for a very long time. Was there like a pivotal moment where you are not confident that starting with this version you can like upgrade more easily? Was there like a moment where like the stability or how easy it is to upgrade was radically different, that you feel a lot more confident going forward? Or is it still like every new release a new game of figuring things out?
It's a complicated question because well, with some services there are almost never any problems with upgrades. Like, I don't know, services like load balancing Octavia, they're usually quite easy to upgrade, but services like Nova or Neutron, well, there might be problems. So of course, on the one hand, we have a stability question. So we could stay like with old release forever and maintain it, and we will be sure it's more or less stable. On the other hand, we have all those bug fixes, all the new features that we want to implement. So there is always internal fight between maintaining stability and the desire to get new features. So which we're always trying to maintain the balance, but we at the same time we're in favor to get newer things. So even yes, there are different moments and a lot of hesitations on how it go, and but still at some point we were willing to take some risk and proceed with it, and I believe if it will be necessary, we'll do it again, because we have our strategy how to do it, and well, it worked well for the last time. I believe we will be able to do it any other time that we need.
Yeah, just to get know about the story of our upgrade, because back in Chamhor, the different stuff were not upgraded. We just deployed new infrastructure until we've done the upgrade from Stein to Train, and we've done it quite recently actually. And globally, it was quite well. We didn't have a big issue with that. And from the control, it was
only one problem. Yeah,
only one. Yeah, but it was not really directly related to the upgrade. Actually, it was.
It was an happy coincidence. Yes.
Yeah, we still love RabbitMQ.
Yeah, I do. Can you tell us more about this, or?
Yes, of course.
Oh, we can. Yeah.
So it was upgrade on one of the biggest regions, and for the lack of safety, what we did during the when Neutron upgrade, we shut down external API. So not just shut down, but we just redirect API calls from it to like a maintenance page, like, hey guys, we're under maintenance. So just to reduce the load and to be able, if something goes really bad, something goes really wrong, it would give us the ability to restore the database from backup because there is no changes, no major changes, as clients can be on operations. So we were at the moment when we were upgrading OpenWSwitch and OpenWSwitch agent on the compute nodes, and we started to get complaints like virtual instances started to lose network connectivity. And before that, we did the restart of RabbitMQ cluster, really minor change of configuration, more like to really cosmetic change. So there, nothing really important. And of course, we verified status of RabbitMQ deployment. Everything was fine, but we did miss one thing. One of the RabbitMQ nodes started to throw in the log these error messages about crashed queues. So basically, a lot of OpenWSwitch agent related queues were crashed, and OpenWSwitch agent after restart OpenWSwitch and agent weren't able to retrieve the information from the neutron and the restore connections. So when you completely restart OpenWSwitch, it has to recreate all the connections, right? So it's been done by the OpenStack agent synchronized with the neutron server, and they're doing that for that. So, and then we got into the situation when a lot of computes just weren't able to recreate those connections, and the instances, a lot of virtual instances, just lost connection, completely lost connection to the network. So when we figured out what was the problem, I mean, it happened quite fast, so it didn't take a lot of time. Yeah, but we just reset RabbitMQ cluster, and after that it like took 10-15 minutes to restore everything. But still, it was a really unpleasant moment because we didn't really expect to have any problem with RabbitMQ without any real load, since we disabled API.
It's always hard with RabbitMQ. We never learn in a good way. We always learn with the hard path. Actually, it's
clearly. And right stuff, what we've done to prevent that in other deployment, because we had other application to upgrade with the same kind of size, we just perform some wait before each RabbitMQ restart, because like 30 seconds. Just the time the restart, the new when we restart, everything is fine and everything stabilized. Because the main issue was the restart of each RabbitMQ was too quick, because we use a tool called Ansible to manage our deployment, and there's no pause between the RabbitMQ restart, and that's one of the reasons the queue crashes, because the restart was too fast, and there hasn't the ability to know which queue is, especially with the HAQ.
That's a problem with the mirror queue, yeah, because when you I mean, Ansible actually has kind of a checked on the status of the RabbitMQ node. So when the RabbitMQ reports it's up, it goes to another node and you started there. But it reports it's up, but it usually hasn't synchronized all the mirror queues yet, and it can happen that one queue will declare self-master and the two nodes at the same time, and then leads to this quorum queue. To this mirror queue crash.
We had a similar issue for us, and we solved it by draining the mirrored queues from the node before shutting it down. By adding, so there seems to be a RabbitMQ CTL feature that was built for that, but they moved it out. Like the code is still there, but like a command line function is gone. So we built some like custom Erlang code to trigger that, and that really helps. Otherwise, quorum queues seem to be a very good thing to go to.
Yeah, clearly.
That's totally on our radar, and we like we want to start to look into it in the next couple of months.
So that's actually a good transition. We have one question from the audience, since we started to look into the operations side of things. So that's a reminder that if you are watching the show live, you can ask questions, and we'll try to answer them as much as we can. So we have a question on the YouTube channel. Yes. So what deployment strategy and what tools are you using to manage such large infrastructure? I think you mentioned Cola Ansible.
Yes.
So just to describe a little bit what is Cola Ansible, Cola is a large variety of tools, is project inside OpenStack to containerize everything around OpenStack. So the idea is to deploy OpenStack APIs and all the stuff inside containers. Mainly we're using Docker, but can also be now Podman, all the stuff. And Cola Ansible is a subgroup of this Cola project dedicated to deploy these containers on bare metal directly using Ansible. So the strategy we have to maintain the different nodes, install new nodes during operation, so on, is using these tools and having Ansible inventories for each region and maintaining them over time. And we also have, of course, custom packages and custom also roles for our bare metals configuration. We don't use everything from Cola Ansible, only a subpart of it dedicated to OpenStack. And the whole system configuration, we already have some historic roles and playbooks we continue to use now for our deployments.
So I suspect you haven't started with Cola Ansible because it's relatively at the scale of OpenStack history, it's relatively recent. Did you play with other types of deployment solutions before settling on Cola Ansible?
Previously was directly, it was Ansible also, but directly with
it was
RPM.
Self-written Ansible playbooks. At least here in Ubisoft, I don't think anybody ever used, like, at least in production, any other solution like I don't know, OpenStack Ansible, something like that. No. So it's been like self-written playbooks, and then when we started to massively deploy new regions with Stein release, at that moment we switched to Cola Ansible, and that really helped us to deploy on the big scale. And as Benjamin mentioned, we mostly use it, but we have a bit of automation on top of that to manage different, multi-regional deployments, because it's not
multi-version too.
Yeah, and the different versions.
So you then migrated your old, let's say, pre-Cola Ansible environment to Cola Ansible, or is that still running on your custom-written Ansible playbooks?
Those all regions weren't migrated to Cola Ansible, so
you still have nice old Ansible playbooks.
Yes.
Yeah, it's not for all services like Keystone or the more recent services we use Cola Ansible, even for the old regions. But for the core one like Nova, Neutron, Cinder, Glance, we still use the old one.
But we get rid of it soon.
Yeah. I hope.
So any other operational tooling that you're using to help with management and maintenance of those clusters, or is it just like straight Cola Ansible?
We have like our special backdoor deployment, Salt. So in case something wrong with SSH and Ansible, we always have a way to do some emergency maintenance. So we have every our server has installed Salt Minion, so we can perform. We prefer do not touch it. We prefer just to have it for the case when we cannot use Ansible, Cola Ansible, or SSH for any reasons. But
so you mean the salt is the secret ingredient?
Absolutely.
Did you ever need to use it?
Not often, and well, some people still prefer to use it, even though if it's not necessary. But there were a couple small cases, and we had problems with SSH access, and I believe there was something with firewall misconfiguration. So it was quite useful, but it's really like really plan B or even plan C if something goes really wrong.
And how big is the team to manage this whole infrastructure?
So we are dividing into smaller teams depending on the scope of, or we are not managing all the different services in one single team, but we are around
10. How many us?
Oh,
18.
I think he's
Is
Benjamin.
Benjamin?
He's
Go.
back.
He's back.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry. I say we are around 20 people to manage that, a little bit below around 20.
Are you including all the management and?
Yeah, including everyone, but if only admins, that's something like 50, a little bit below 15.
I would say 12, 13.
12.
Yeah.
How many people are in duty from time to time?
All of us actually. All the admins. So we have this
it's
population.
12 people, right?
Yeah.
Okay, it's not that big. It's a pretty small team for. How many hypervisors in global do you have? You said one of the biggest region is around 400, but I imagine not all the region are.
The biggest regions now is almost 500, but we have like 2,500 computes overall, I believe.
Okay.
Yes, 2,500, something like that.
Is it deployed worldwide? Do you have some data center around the world?
Yeah, absolutely. We have some in Asia, some in Europe, some in North America. Yeah.
And all of them are running this, connecting to the same keystone, right?
Yes.
Okay. Don't you have any latency issue based on the fact that keystone is located at one place but not the regions?
That database is always distributed all over the world. The database that backup Keystone. So Keystone database is like geo-distributed database.
And okay,
is it a Galera cluster or is it?
Yes.
Yeah, currently
okay.
yes.
So you're running a Galera cluster around the world.
For now, yes. That's something we want to change quite soon.
Okay.
Well,
okay. I wouldn't have expected it to work.
It works. It actually works. It's been worse initially. It was deployed with too many cluster nodes. Then we reduced number of cluster nodes, I believe, up to 7. So there are 7 nodes, and it works quite well. There are some problems with dead logs that we will fix.
You will fix.
Somehow, I don't know, maybe by moving to another solution to another architecture. But yeah, I mean, right now it's pretty much tolerable. Sometimes it gives us some pain, but it's manageable. It works.
Yeah. Okay.
We actually have a new question from the audience, more on the storage side. So how about Ceph for storage for the current Cola Ansible? Are you using any kind of distributed storage?
We don't use Ceph.
Yeah, we don't use Ceph.
Unfortunately.
Unfortunately. For volumes, we use PowerFlex, previously named Scale.io, for the volumes, and for otherwise, it's local storage for the VMs.
And we also have Swift. We also have Swift object storage that distributed around the world, but there is a separate team in charge of Swift. So it's been deployed and managed by us, but like a year ago we handed it over to a separate team who is in charge of Swift deployment now. And for the PowerFlex stuff, just want to bring some clarity. So we use this proprietary solution because initially there was like a strong intention to align all the storage solution between different teams, so between us, VMware, and the other enterprise services, so all of them could use the same storage backend. So we just couldn't go with Ceph. VMware and the Microsoft, unfortunately, don't really like those kind of storage systems.
So you are finally the only one using it?
No, those teams use it as well.
Okay, so Okay. And you said Swift. Is Swift used as a backend for Glance, maybe?
Yes.
Okay. And you said you have local storage for instances on computes. Is it problematic for live migration or stuff like that, or do you avoid migrating instances?
It's been a huge pain in the ass, to be honest. We improved it. It's better now. So right now we only have problems with really big virtual instances that have like terabytes of volumes with high I/O. That's still problem to migrate them. But for example, if you take general virtual instances that has a like local volume of 200 or 300 of gigabytes, it's absolutely fine to do block migration. It works fine now.
Yeah. So we have pretty much the same issues in our deployment. We are using local storage as you do, and yeah, if the disk is big, problem are bigger. So basically,
Yeah, but at least with latest QEMU versions, it's going the way better than it used to be, like with QEMU to the 10 to the 12. It was awful before, but now with 6.27 versions, it's way better and way more stable.
What is the underlying operating system that you are using? Because I think you rely on an operating system to install latest QEMU version. Is it based on, or is it compiled in the company? Or
well, our libvirt is we use call Ansible, so it's containerized. So libvirt is running inside a container. So
okay.
For libvirt, now for libvirt we use CentOS 8 stream.
Okay.
But for example, host operating system, hypervisor operating system is mostly everywhere still CentOS 7. We're planning to migrate to Ubuntu. Yeah, but this call Ansible gives us a bit flexibility to use, different operating systems inside the container to get newer versions.
Is it the same for QEMU? QEMU is running inside the Cola, is inside the Docker container as well?
Yes.
Yeah, along with libvirt.
Okay.
Yeah, there's some parameters you can put when you start a container to have privileged access and so on. And for instance, QEMU directly rated it's a child of systemd directly. Or in that way, if you restart your container, you are not affected by. You don't restart your VMs. But yeah, that's the idea to have everything containerized. And the main advantage is you can have different versions for your services. For instance, we have a more recent version of Octavia on our system. We are currently in Nursery and moving to Yoga.
Part of the regions are in Yoga Octavia already, and we're going to finish it in a couple of weeks to upgrade Octavia everywhere to Yoga.
But that's for more maintenance. And if actually the different services can have a different life cycle for their version. You can decide, okay, Octavia is way easier to upgrade, so you can upgrade it very easily without affecting the other services. You just have to check if the communication between the services with the API is still working well. Normally that's the case, but they can have very slight case and where you have some bug feeds in some version.
With containers, you don't have this problem of library version compatibilities.
Yeah.
Comparing if you have all the services installed on the bare metal hosts. So we don't care about like library compatibility between services because all the libraries are packed inside the container.
So I wanted to ask a question around downstream changes. Do you maintain patches over OpenStack versions that you carry over every upgrade? And is it something you could contribute back upstream, or do you run just vanilla OpenStack deployment at this stage?
We do have some patches. We, if it's possible, we're always trying to contribute to the upstream project. Yes, usually those are fixes. A lot of fixes, like bug fixes that we can, manage by ourselves. So we of course trying to push it to community, and quite often we get them merged. And it's easier this way because in this case we don't have to maintain it on our side. When it's merged upstream, well, it's maintained by the community. But we do have some patches, really specific patches that just won't be merged to the upstream project because they cover really specific our cases. Yeah, so we still maintain like a set of our internal patches, but it's not so big.
Well,
It's
the
not,
backport, yeah,
it's
just
not
say what.
too painful to maintain, or it's sufficiently small that it's not too painful to maintain by your side.
Depending on the kind of patches actually, but yeah, you can actually when it's more related to Nova, Neutron, or main stuff, if it's a small patch, a small fix, it can be easy to backport because yeah, that's the bug is hit by everyone. What is harder, I think, to backport, in my opinion, is for instance stuff related to Core Ansible because we have kind of opportunity way to use Core Ansible for some stuff and can't backport easily the patches for Core Ansible.
But if
or
there
it
is a
would be
bug
way
fix,
complicated.
if there is a bug fix, it's really easy because community of Ansible is usually really responsive.
Clearly.
Give a fast and a nice response. So for example, the last patch we got it merged, it took 2 days since reporting back and get fix merged to upstream.
Okay. So for managing upgrades, I suspect you're just using. Are you dropping the complete version, or are you upgrading using Core Ansible? Do you do any type of upgrades, or is it more like Arno said earlier, dropping completely and rebuilding?
We touched this subject already today. Last time we did complete upgrades, so we decided to go with a proper life cycle. So we upgraded everything from Stein to Train. So that was I'd say life upgrade, except that we just shut down external API for a couple of hours during the night, and that's it. And we could have actually avoided even that. We did it in the lack of safety. We could go without shutting down the API, so we could go. We could do it completely live, and maybe next time we will do that.
It's mostly to upgrade the database, I think, which is where you need to shut down API to avoid writing be in the middle of upgrading. So,
yeah. It was mostly for the case if we would like to restore database from backup.
Yeah.
If something goes really wrong and we don't want to, override our configuration to have those newly created resources during upgrade like dangled on the hypervisor, because if we restore database, the new resources won't be in this old version of database, so it would be the whole mess to clean up after. So that's actually what the main reason.
Yeah. But the online upgrades for the databases, I think, work extremely nice.
Yeah.
At least what we tried the last few times for Keystone and Glance, it works really nice and without anything the user ever notices.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What I know also is for now, because the initial deployment which wasn't started, so upgrading from one version is okay. But what we have to care about, have to be careful about in the next upgrade is the more you upgrade multiple times. If you upgrade 4 or 5 times, you can have maybe slides. If you have an issue, I don't know, of first migration, but it's not. It can be visible on the first migration, but the more you upgrade the database, the more you can see some glitches on the rows on the table. So that's I think now it's way better compared to before, but yeah,
it's definitely better. Yeah.
You should be careful about it.
We faced such issues in our infrastructure, upgrading from we did a big jump from Newton to Stein, and we had exactly what you described, something in the database, because we previously upgraded from Juno to Newton, and the infra we upgraded from Newton to Stein, we're still having weird things in the database that prevent Stein to running correctly. And because of this, we did a massive checkup on the database, and we did a check on constraint and if the data is correctly set and a lot of stuff like this. We built a tool around making sure the data is correctly working for Stein, and that's kind of painful.
In the past, I did upgrade from Newton to Rocky, and I remember I had quite similar problems actually.
Yeah.
It wasn't at Ubisoft; it was in another place, but
So we actually have a new question from the audience around security updates and Cola Ansible. So how do you handle potential security updates? Do you maintain that by yourself?
Yeah, actually,
it depends on the branch actually. So for example, right now we have a new CVE to take care of. It's been released this week. There's no CVE, so we need to add this fix. And since we're using train, its fix is for Nova, so it won't be backported to Nova branch. So we'll need to do it manually. We'll need to patch. We'll need to add custom patch to Cola build, to our Cola build pipeline, so it will be applied to the newly built containers. So we will be able to deploy those new containers. But if, for example, for that multi-AZ project that Benjamin mentioned, it uses Wallaby, and Wallaby is pretty much supported, so you can just take this latest commit from this branch and build the image with it. Just deploy a new version of the container using Cola Ansible.
And just to build the images, we use the Cola tool that provides us all the stuff we need to build easily the containers. We don't take the directly one from the Docker IO. I don't recall which Docker registry is used by OpenStack, but we build them ourselves with a dedicated pipeline for that. And we have our custom patch in it, our custom configuration, and so on.
Can you share how long that will then take? Like, for example, for the CVE of Tuesday to get it rolled out across all your regions?
I actually I'm planning to start to work on it right after this live stream. Yes, so I'm pretty sure it will take to build and test everything in a lab day and another day to deploy it everywhere. So
then it's definitely a quite fast rollout process to get it in one day to all nodes.
It seems to be quite critical, so we're gonna give it high priority. Because
it is quite fun.
Just yesterday, I was able to reproduce it, and I was able to get quite sensitive data from the hypervisor. So I really want to fix that really fast.
Yeah. Which make me another question for you guys. How do you monitor your infrastructure? Do you have any observability tool that you are using, or what is your way to monitor your infrastructure?
Yeah, we are using Prometheus to perform the monitoring of the infrastructures. So basically, we are deploying what we call exporters in Prometheus world. So we have the basic one, like we call node exporters, but we also use the OpenStack exporters for having OpenStack metrics about VM usage, volume usage, and so on. And we are also RabbitMQ and HAProxy now bundled Prometheus exporter directly inside the program. So you just have to activate it into the configuration file, and you get it up and ready. And for the Prometheus infrastructure, actually, we have a dedicated team in Ubisoft providing Prometheus cluster easily. So we ask them to have one Prometheus cluster per region, and then they have a very they use a solution called Victoria Matrix. It can have a very big infrastructure with all the metrics all over the world.
And they host their platform on our platform, so we kind of have a chicken and egg problem here. But we just place a monitoring cluster in the different regions. So if we lose regions, we don't lose monitoring for this region. So because we have a lot of regions, we can distribute it this way around the world.
Yeah, and for Victoria Matrix is I don't recall the other alternative of it. Anyway, the idea is to have a high redundant backend for the metrics. So if you lose one region or one node, you can still have access to your metrics. So,
okay, nice.
Then I would continue a little bit with the scaling topics. I think you already shared a story about RabbitMQ. I would guess you have other scaling stories maybe that are not about the RabbitMQ everybody loves those.
RabbitMQ is quite a tricky one, yeah.
Yeah, but we actually just a couple of words about RabbitMQ. We just decided, we just took in every big region, we just took 3 empty compute nodes and moved RabbitMQ there completely to resolve the problem with it. So it's just it's running on the dedicated servers and don't give us any more pain.
Are you then actually running like one RabbitMQ cluster for the entire region, or
No,
are you running one RabbitMQ for the server?
We run one RabbitMQ cluster for the entire region. Yeah.
Okay.
We've been thinking actually to go into the direction to divide it per service, but right now we don't see much need in that. So it pretty much handles our load, but we have that in mind.
Just as a hint, if you ever do that, take a look at the large scale docs, because if you don't set some specific options, you will have very much fun.
I'm pretty sure we will have a lot of fun in any case, because it's rather different.
We already have scrapped a different configuration from this SIG wiki pages with the different tweak and tunes performances. It's already in place for our infra. It's just that at one moment when you start to have 300 nodes, and if you follow the classical Collar Ansible deployment with everything on the same nodes for the APIs and MariaDB and RabbitMQ, when you start to have some load peaks, it starts to can be tricky for the RabbitMQ. And the one who starts to cry once everything is not going well is always RabbitMQ. It doesn't like any loads on the node, so that's why we moved first to another nodes.
So yeah, go ahead.
And just to say, yeah, for the new region, so we have reformed the multi-AZ to ensure redundancy and to split the load. We have now one node for APIs, one node for RabbitMQ, and one node for MariaDB in each zone. So we don't have this kind of issue anymore.
Okay.
So RabbitMQ is our preferred topic for scaling issues, but there is another one that usually comes up really fast after that. I would have thought it's you have IO constraints in your environment due to the type of workloads you're running. So what can you tell us about the issues you encountered scaling Neutron up to the levels you're running right now?
That's a good question. Well, we don't have as much problem as we could expect it, and I think one of the reasons is that we already mentioned that we have a lot of quite big virtual machines, which actually reduce the overall number of them. So it is not so loaded, but we use like old school approach with dedicated network nodes with the legacy L3 agents. So we have this obvious bottleneck on the network nodes, and we do have some problems. It's not even scaling problems, but performance problems with Open with Switch that it doesn't gives us this this level of performance that we would like to get, and especially on the 25G nodes. Because all of our new nodes are equipped with the 25 gigs network cards, and well, right now Open with Switch doesn't show us what we would like to see. So
I suspect you are running Open with Switch driver with a VXLAN tunneling or something like that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Have you tried OVN?
Only like as a personal project in the lab.
Okay.
Yeah, and for the multi-AZ one, our architects tried OVN, but we have some concern because we were using BGP inside Neutron to advertise the private cell service network
and floating IPs.
And OVN, when it tried that one or 2 years ago, OVN wasn't ready for BGP stuff. So that's why for the multi-AZ.
So you were a project for that works quite similar to the neutron BGP agent for OBS.
I didn't get your question.
So if you want to try again, that there is now a project that like implements the BGP thing in a, let's say, similar way to how it works for OBS. So if you want to try again, you might want to check it out.
We'll definitely check it out, but for this new region, it has been already decided to move on with DVR, with distributed virtual routing.
So we're unfortunately at the end of our allocated time. We'll have maybe thank you. I'll thank you all for all this. This discussion it was really very interesting to have a deeper look into how you actually operate those, and we learned a lot of interesting things around like the number of people you actually use having to operate this kind of environments, which is kind of crazy when you think about it, how large it is versus how many people you actually manage to run it with. So I'll pass back to Kristin so that we can close this episode, but I would like to thank you again for joining today and having this wonderful conversation about your large-scale OpenStack deployment.
Thank you. Thank you for the invite.
Thanks, Thierry. I want to thank all of our awesome speakers today. I appreciate you all for joining us, and to the audience for asking some really great questions. If you like talks like this one, make sure you register to attend the Open Infra Summit in Vancouver, June 13th through the 15th. Also, tune in on February 16th for a very informative episode from the OpenStack community titled NVIDIA GPU Management by OpenStack, Nova, and Cyborg. Remember that if you have any ideas for any future episodes, we want to hear from you. Make sure you submit your ideas to ideas.openinfra.live, and maybe we'll see you on a future show. So mark your calendars. Hope you're all able to join us on February 16th at 15 UTC. Thanks again to today's guest, and we hope to see you all on the next Open Infra Live. Bye.